So what this is about today is these three words: accountability, execution, and urgency. We do a lot of work, and I'll explain it here in a second, out in the field, hands-on, working with a lot of frontline sales management, a lot of regional or market level sales management. We believe that what's needed out there in the sales arena is less training, less tools, less stuff, more doing it. We've always believed that managers, leaders, coaches, whatever you're going to call them, are kind of a leverage point in the organization to getting things done. And so we've aligned ourselves as an organization to helping that inventory of people get better. My story, I think you said I've been with the firm 14 years. That's right. My dad and another individual co-founded the company. They're both Wilson Learning folks. Anybody ever heard of Wilson Learning or remember Wilson Learning? Okay. Big video training, etc. Counselor, salesperson, if you ever heard of that. That was their program. They were involved with that. My father was a VP of sales for Wilson Learning for a few years, and he and his partner jumped off, and this was back in 1993, started Business Efficacy because they saw a big need for all these companies who were spending millions upon millions of dollars, and it's only grown over the years. With butts in seats training, different training techniques, no one was helping them get applied. So they went out and filled that gap, and that's how we aligned ourselves with management. I lived a horror story about that time that led me to be a part of Business Efficacy. So, everybody ever been out to Lord Fletcher's out in Lake Minnetonka? All right, I went to school in St. Cloud State. During the summers, I came back. A gentleman named Bob Nagley owned Lord Fletcher's. His brother Bill, I think, had the Wild for a while. That might be the other reason you know the name. I worked at an athletic club called Flagship for about a year. They had an outdoor grill. That's my first job, was flipping burgers at that grill. He also, like I said, he owned Flagship. He took a liking to me, brought me out to Lord Fletcher's. I worked out there for a cup of coffee, and then he promoted me into management and said, hey, would you ever like to run this outdoor deck? And I thought, my gosh, how much fun would that be? So I did that for 4 years. That's how I paid my way through college. At the end of that, if you remember a place called Planet Hollywood, a restaurant, they came recruiting me and wanting to see if I would be willing to be a general manager of a new store they're opening up and run that. So I was left at that point with this decision to make, and this will all come together here in a second for you. Am I going to spend the rest of my life working from 3 p.m. till 2 in the morning, trying to run a restaurant, probably picking up a drinking habit, smoking habit, eating habit, all the other things that go with it, no family? Or did I want to do something else? And so I said, what do I know best? Well, I know restaurants. I know a little bit about managing a business because I've learned it over the last 4 years. So I went and sold to restaurants. I went to work for a company called Kraft. Have you ever heard of it? I went out and sold in their food service distribution side. And I was President's Club, all those fun things for a few years. But they'll never forget it. They gave me 6 weeks of training. Sales process stuff, Franklin Covey stuff, if you've been through that. Procurement stuff. Going in the warehouse, watching how they pick product off the shelves. Go get in the truck, right along, see how it got delivered. You were so prepared before you ever stepped out and breathed on a customer. You couldn't help but have success. So I did really well and got promoted into management. What do you think happened? My preparation for that job was about as long as the amount of time that's elapsed since Paul started talking this morning till just now. It was about 10 minutes. Username, password, go get those guys and girls to do what you do. All right, so as that's going on, this business is being built to fill that need, to help those people. I failed miserably as a manager my first time around. I mean, I was getting in the car, I was taking over calls, you know, I was doing the work, I was jamming my way or the highway down everybody's throat. I was repelled every which direction. And I came home on holiday and I said, you know, hey, my dad's like, hey, how's it going? Full well knowing what I was going through. And I explained it. He says, well, I'm glad you're going through that. We're building this company. I said, wow. So I went back and did my thing for 2 more years. Learned a little bit more. But I said, when you guys are ready, I want to be a part of this. Because I think I can tell the story, but I've lived the pain. And I know if a company like Kraft, which is backed by Philip Morris, isn't doing anything about this issue, isn't helping managers add value day in, day out, then there's a huge opportunity. So that's how I got involved in this crazy business. Now, as I've been out in the field for 14 years, these 3 terms, this is where this got going. These 3 things are the things that managers ask for more than anything. Every single day we're out there. Most of our work is spent side by side in the field, in the offices, in the cars, working with managers as they do their work. We model for them, we practice with them, we observe them, we teach them, we prod them along, we support them, we do all those things. I'm always asked, boy, if I could just get more accountability from my people, if we could just execute, and if I could get anybody to have a sense of urgency, we'd be world beaters. So we started a few years ago going out and setting out to figure out and solve how can we help deliver this for people and make it tangible so they could go out and do it. So what I'm going to share with you today is just something we've taken out to a lot of our clients and helped them with. Some real how-tos. So we're not going to have a ton of theory here today. I'm going to give you some things to walk out with. Scott, you can go out there in the hallways this afternoon and start executing this stuff. Any of you can do it. It works at home. I do it with my kids. All right, it works with your wife or your husband, especially with husbands. Yeah, all right. But it'll work. It doesn't matter if you're in sales or not, any kind of management. So I know a lot of you have a lot of different businesses. You may not be responsible for a number. It doesn't matter. It's about getting things done. So which is essentially what our business is about. It's about execution. So we're not there, like I said, to train people. We're not there to, give you a tool or technology. We're to help you get things done. Our tagline, or one of them, we have many. Use your help, maybe Kevin, on that. But it's really helping companies collapse their time from their plans or strategies to the outcomes. So how do we get there? We believe it's execution. All right. It's led us to, at the same time, how do we simplify complexity for, obviously we deal with sales management. In this case, it's all management. How do we make this world easier to do? Because it's only getting more complex. Doing something wrong with Paul, I'm sorry.
No, that's what
The old-fashioned way. All right, so we're going to talk about fundamentals today. I'm going to try and keep it very simple for you. Doable, a couple of things, 2, 3 things that you can take out of here. Let's do I hit the button for me. Any guess as to what that number represents? No? Nobody? Take a stab? It's the number of Google search hits on the word leadership. And it said 0.23 seconds, that's how fast it comes back. 501 million different individual page hits on this term. What's it tell us? Why, there's also 88,363 different leadership books available at barnesandnoble.com. I just checked that out the other day. You might recognize some of these. I've read most of these. And what's interesting is you walk away with a lot of different ideas of what it might mean or could mean. Just tells me there's a lot of need out there still. And there's a ton of confusion. All right, so we kind of disseminated into what do we think it is? All right, do you have any ideas of your own before I share ours? What do you think leadership is? Just give me some one-word characteristics. What do you think?
There's no such thing as one word that defines leadership.
Yeah, see, good.
Now, I've looked at that
So he's
too.
clearly confused.
I'm clearly, yeah. It's not being able to knock someone over the head and get them to do what you want to do. It's
Amen.
getting them to be the best that they can be, the most capable that they can be.
Excellent. What else?
Transferring
What do you
values.
think? Transferring values? Excellent. What else?
Vision.
Vision. Bob, on the spot. Sit in the front row.
Well, I was thinking about accountability.
Accountability. Did that? Any other thoughts?
Guidance.
Guidance. That's probably all those things, right? It's all that stuff. So that's why it's very hard to get a finger on. So we try to, synthesize it down to a few things. Again, we're trying to simplify the world for managers. We think it's as simple as this: helping others experience success at what matters to them. All right? It's different for all of us. If you take it into a sales job, it might be something very specific to that salesperson. It might be very different for Kevin. Back when I think you used to work at Best Buy for a period of time. I don't know if it was all throughout your career, but for a period of time. If you think back to your leaders or managers, when you went in there to work every day, what did you care about? The things that you wanted to be great at, that you needed, whatever path it was you wanted to be on, whatever your mission was, if you want to use that word. It was always the great leaders, remember, those that helped us get better at those things that mattered to us. All right? So as we step forward, it's like, okay, great. Let's figure out how to do that for folks. All right? In the sales world, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but those who are responsible for a number, we kind of dummy things down to 3 things. So you're going to detect that theme for me a lot. The key on the left is quantity, all right? It's activity. You got to manage and help people with that. The middle one is quality, okay? How good are we at the moment of truth at customer interface? And the last one is right customer. We're talking about the right customer. All right, when we're talking about sales leadership, we try and help people drive and manage to those things. So how do you lead people to success? Well, you got to take it down and get it into its lowest common denominator. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. We're not spending talking about what it means to you. But in our world, we do spend a lot of time on that. So the coaching mission. How do we transfer good intentions into changed behavior? This is kind of our definition of coaching. So it goes back to that coaching leader mission. We see them as one and the same. If you're a coach, you have a great opportunity to impact somebody's life. But as we think about it, a lot of times we get wrapped up in the numbers, we get wrapped up in the tasks, we get wrapped up into declarations, things I'm asking you to do. And we're trying to bring it back to, again, what's our mission as a coach? I got to transfer your good intentions into change behaviors. I've never met anybody that's wanted to fail. Have you? Right, but do people fail? And there's different reasons for that, right? But as a coach, how does it make you feel when they fail in your watch? Oh, horrible, right? Again, so how can we orient our minds as a coach or leader? It's not about me, it's about them. All right, so our goal as a coach or a leader is to do 3 things. Again, it's back to this simplicity of 3. Is our job is to help people be educated, prepared, motivated. To do the right things day in and day out. Okay? So now, how do we take this down to accountability, execution, and urgency in creating them? So if our mission is to do all these good things, help people be great for their reasons, all right, help people be educated, prepared, motivated to do the right things, what's our role in doing that? How do we do that? Where do we even begin? So I go back to that day. I was sitting in the car. So again, you know, eager beaver I was at the time. I was about 25, 26 at the time, new manager. Just got my username and password. I was fired up. You get into all these reports, you know, the little green screen with the paper would come out with the holes in the side, you know, spool out. Remember that stuff? We'd come a little ways. But I immediately jumped into a car. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I know what I was supposed to look like. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to educate my people, prepare them, get them motivated. I didn't know any of those things. I didn't even know how to do some of the most simple things we're going to talk about. These 3 things that we're going to talk about the rest of the day. How we create accountability. You know, to your point, Eric, it's not about hitting someone over the head to do something. It's about leading them there. Okay? How do we get execution? How do we get people to do things for their reasons? And how do we create urgency? Because you all are in small businesses, yes? At some level. I mean, Northwestern Mutual is a big company, but you're running your own business within it. I know you've built a great company here. Might be still considered a small business in your mind, but it's got a lot of complexity to it. So how do we create urgency in each and every person on our team to move the small things that matter for them? All right? So accountability, execution, urgency. In your folder, I brought for you a couple of things. This is one of them. This is how we disseminate down accountability, execution, and urgency. We think those are things you have to create the conditions for to even begin to realize. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time walking through that. I also have provided a couple other pieces in there for you. Right behind that arrow, you're going to see what's called a high impact behavior matrix. Looks like a little chart. That's right. We're going to work with this for the next half an hour or so. Another word I used for this is called the clarity matrix. So as we walk through this, creating the conditions for accountability, we break it down. There you go. We break it down into 3 things. So hopefully at the end of today, what I'd love for you to be able to do is kind of be able to do this and think about your own team, and we'll walk through this. Might be your husband or wife, might be your kids, okay? It might be team members. But we think accountability starts with being clear. This is the number one thing when we're out in the field working with managers, is we observe them working with their people. They drop the ball on. They struggle here, the very first step. I heard a stat a few months ago, or I might have read it, I can't remember. But basically the premise was, we are unclear with what we expect with people to a magnitude of 10. So when we think we're being clear, we're falling short 10x. Now, I don't know how you quantify that, but one of the things we spend a lot of time doing out in the field is challenging managers when they're asking you. You ever sat in a meeting with your boss, your manager, somebody that's got a whole task list of things for you to do? You know, hey Scott, I need you to do this. You know, oh, by the way, we got to get this thing out by next week for that show. Oh, by the way, can you make sure to get, you know, John looped in and this, that, and the other? Okay, cool, you got it? And what do we say?
Gives it to me. Oh, sorry.
It gives you. Hey, you got all that? Did you get it? And what do you say?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, got it. And then what happens? They run out of the office, phone starts ringing, check an email, you got to run into another meeting. Now what happens with that list of stuff? Now I assume you're a very good note taker, okay? And this isn't about you. But as a manager, a lot of times, what do we do? What do we assume?
That they're going to handle it?
You're going to handle it? You know exactly what I'm looking for? Okay? It's going to happen. Now usually we don't talk time frames a lot of times. You know, we don't. And so when we start to really talk about what you expect versus what was heard, you can just see this chasm forming. And so one of the first things that we work on with individuals is around, are you sure you were clear? Well, how do you know? How do you know?
Ask them to state it back.
That's right. You know how often that happens? I do a little straw research as we go out and work with managers. It's about 5% of the time. And you know why it is? Because we're always pressed for time. It's always something we do in like the last 2 or 3 minutes of the meeting. You know, we went off on tangents here, we went off over here. You know, we were talking about this. Oh, by the way, you know, what'd you think of that meeting last week? And we rarely bring it all back together. So it happens in the last 2 minutes, if ever. Okay? So state the expected action. So if you look at this little clarity matrix, all right, this is by no means scientific to any degree, but what we've done to help some people is say, okay, great. I use myself as an example on here. I don't mean one up. A lot of times, and this is something I used from back in the day when I was in sales. You know, Kurt, I want you to pre-call plan every sales meeting. Oh, all right, cool. And that, a lot of times, is an edict from a manager that's in the sales world. You got to be prepared for your sales call. Got it? Yep, got it. Know exactly what you want. All right. Well, why is that? Okay. Have you answered the why? Hey, Kurt, I really want you to be prepared for your sales calls. Here's why. I want you to be able to increase your success rate, all right, and moving an opportunity along the next stage of the sales process. As we've been reviewing your performance, as we've looked at it, as you've told me where you want to go for your purposes, why you want to have success, whether it's, you know, to hit plan and get money, or whether it's to, you know, for the promotion, whatever it is. As we've zeroed in, I've identified that you're really kind of struggling in this area. You're pretty good at getting first meetings, but we struggle at moving it through the pipeline. So I want to help you for your reasons. Do that, all right? How am I going to know that we've achieved mastery? What's it look like when I know you got it? Well, you're going to be able to recite to me, because I'm going to follow up with you. A couple times a week, I'll spot check in. But I want you to be able to recite to me how you're going to get into the call, conversation, what questions you might ask, what questions you anticipate, how you might handle those questions, what your thoughts are on there. All right? And then here's how I'm going to follow up with you. So we spend, and oh, by the way, we're going to work on this for a few weeks until you got it. All right, so by when? So if it's something you're asking somebody to do, is there a time frame associated with it, if appropriate? All right, so we end up working with a lot of people on just identifying these 5 things. we find this helps. So state the expected action. To create accountability, unless you're clear in the very beginning about what it looks like, what you want, when you want it done by, and how to do it, it's tough to expect it's going to get done that way. We're leaving it up to hope. We've all heard what hope's not a strategy, right? Ever heard that? I think there's a book out there called that. All right, that's what we're talking about. It's a determined understanding. 100% right. So once we've shared what we want it to look like, then what? What's that sound like? What's it sound like when Scott does it with you?
We're loaded for problems here now, aren't we? We're going to be the case study.
So what is it you think I've asked you to do? Before I let you go, hold on. I'd feel really good if you just played it back for me. So I know we're on the same place. Why do we do that? Why is that so important?
We're on the same page. On the same page.
So we're on the same page, right? We got it all, right? We got the same expectations. And why might that be important beyond just that we're on the same page? What's that going to allow to have happen?
Accountability.
You're almost there. Not yet. It's going to collapse the time frame. Because how many times have we thought we asked somebody to do something? And this is where the kid stuff comes in. I've got a 7-year-old boy. And I've probably stated the expectation around make your bed, so you can bounce a quarter off it. Or whatever the expectation is. Do it every day before you go to school. I'm going to check it. So I kind of walk through this. So he's very clear on, oh, okay. I'm supposed to make my bed. I'm supposed to make it every morning. I'm supposed to make it this way. It's got to be done before I go to school. And oh, by the way, my dad's going to spot check it so I can't screw up on it. My allowance depends on it. All right? So, Jack, that's his name. What do you think I've asked you to do? And he'll repeat it back. And then we get to the magic question. This is what makes it all go. This is what sets up accountability. To even allow it to happen. Is this third one. So can I count I need to get it done? You're going to step it off? So when we put these three things together, again, I go back to what we observe in the field a lot. An unclear expectation. Do you got it? Yep. Cool. We'll see you. I got to run to my next meeting. Versus, here's what I need you to do. Here's what it looks like. Here's how I'd like it to get done, if that's applicable, if they don't know. Here's when I'd love to have that done by. And here's how I'll follow up with you. Do you got it? Could you just play it back for me so I feel real good about it? Make sure we're on the same page so we don't go a week or two with me assuming something's happening. And I find out later it's not, the end gets started yet, et cetera, et cetera. And then can I count on you to get it done? Why do you think that last question is so important? Any ideas?
Buy-in.
Hmm?
Buy-in.
No. Mm-mm. We're not getting buy-in here. We're just getting agreement to act. All right? Doesn't mean you like it. But what does that do?
Is there a commitment question?
It transfers. It transfers it from me to you. All right, now you've just told me, yep, I got it. I know what you want. I played it back for you so I know what it looks like. And I will do it. Okay, I've now accepted accountability. We see that fall down more than anything right here. So beyond clear, rarely do we ever hear a manager say, all right, so you going to make this happen? Can I count it? We have any last issues? We're good? Nope, I got it. Because we go back to, no one wants to fail. We all have self-responsibility. Otherwise, we wouldn't stop for red lights and stuff when no one's looking, right? So again, it's about setting that up. We can't hold people accountable if we haven't done our part. If you haven't been clear, and I haven't really asked you to take it on, do I have any right to, come down hard on you about it, or slap your hand, whatever the terminology is, if I haven't done this part? How does that make you feel if you're on the other end of it? It feels like the stick, right? Yeah. Whereas opposed to, if we do this, we can set up a carrot. Give me a fast forward. Thank you. So then, great, we just got this expectation out there, it's clear, got agreement, I'm going to go do it. Next step, and this is about how do we create the conditions for execution to occur. So we know what accountability is now. I'm able to get you to accept doing it. This is about getting it done. So number one on that list, follow through. So if people are unclear by a magnitude of 10, the other thing we see is a complete and total lack of follow-through. So how often have you been a part of somebody asking you to do something and then you never hear from them again? Does that happen? Ever happen with your boss or at work, with the team? Not you. Definitely not you. But right, so if we don't follow through on it, what does that say about how important this must be?
Oh, I know people who say, oh, yeah, it'll become a priority if they come back and say that it's important.
Yeah. Till they come back, I'm not going to do anything with it. Then I'll know. So to get execution to happen, it's critical to have follow through. And follow through can happen a lot of different ways. You know, if you work in a large organization, you got very, descript management activities, if you will, where you got to do one-on-ones every week, or you got to have sales meetings and stuff. You have some natural forums to do that. But if you're working in small teams, it takes great discipline to go back and say, hey, Eric, I know we talked yesterday about doing the blah, 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 with the blah, blah, blah. How's that coming? Well, gee, Kurt, I hadn't started on it yet. Okay, well, I just want to make sure that, as you do, that if you have any questions, I'm here for you. That kind of thing. But he knows now, okay, shoot, this isn't going to go away. I got to get doing on this, all right? Implement the right treatment. What do you think I mean by that? So once you follow through, what are you going to find out? What are you going to see?
It's done or it wasn't.
Might be whether it was done or it wasn't. You might hear, hey, you know what? I got started on that. Kind of confused as I got moving on what you're really looking for. I thought I got it yesterday, but as I get into it, I'm not sure. Right? Another example, gee, I was thinking that's next week. Oh, well, I didn't really realize it, you were expecting I started it sooner. There's all kinds of different things. It goes back to, again, if you're going to set up execution, time frames, reminders, all those things around, hey, if I run into issues and you're not following through, I might go on a completely different course than what you were hoping. And what does that do for us? We might end up with a different product than what we were looking for on the back end. All right, so again, it collapses the time frame. So again, you set up accountability, you drive it with follow through. You're able to sit there and go, great, you're right on track. Keep moving along, just like you are. Or whoa. I must have been unclear on what we were talking about or gave you some bad direction. Let me get you kind of thinking this way instead. All right? Or you nailed it. Let's move on. All right? And follow through again and again. Okay? So depending on the complexity of what you ask for, depending on the length of time we're talking about, depending upon the amount of guidance you have, the amount that you follow through on it is going to dictate the speed at which it gets done or the success at which it's done. So again, if we go back to two big things, managers ask us all the time, how can I hold my people accountable? We go back to being clear, getting agreement, and passing it on to you. And if I could just get my people to execute. Execution at its lowest common denominator for us is all about the follow through. So as a manager, figuring out how to creatively do that, whether it's on phone, email, drop-bys, what have you, will accelerate. And you will get a lot of data that will help you understand whether it's moving along the right track. All right? Great leader coaches provide value at every interaction. I wanted to share this with you too. If you want to flip one more, Paul, thanks. We've done studies over the years. So as you do all these different interactions, we've done some studies around the best versus the rest, what that looks like. And we found 8, we'll call it secret sauce up here, but kind of the 8 common denominators of really value-added leadership. So these are what we've come up with. We find that the most value-added leaders ask a lot more than they tell. We've heard that a lot. All right, they're asking a lot of questions, finding out what's going on. It's allowing a lot of directives. Clear expectations we talked about. It's all about them. So again, it's not about my needs, it's about your needs. How can I help you get better? And oh, by the way, as a leader, I've got to get through to my destination through the work of others. So again, making sure it's all about you, not me. High impact view, keeping things simple. Timing, not time. So it's not about me spending an hour and a half with you. It's me about spending the right amount of time when you need it, in small bits and bites, to help you move along. Learn from each win. What do you think we mean by that? You guys like negative feedback? Does that help you? Does it help you get better? Does it help you move forward? No, right? It's any time that we see positive progress going on, being in a position to leverage it and say, hey, hell of a good job. That's really what I was looking for. I like how you're progressing here. Great start. All those things that keep moving again. People will react to, if it's all about me, and you're helping me learn from my successes, that's value add for me. I'm learning from you. The last thing is take it on. Take it on is, hey, if you see something that's not happening, deal with it. Help them. Get involved, which speaks back to follow through. Oops. No, you're fine. We're going to have that. So, I spoke for a moment about applying the right treatment. 3 things, when you go and you do follow through, you can just stay the course, right? You're on track, keep moving forward. I like what I'm seeing. You can adjust, gives you an opportunity to change course, save time, all right? Save heartache from doing it wrong, potentially. If someone's, trying to do the work, okay? You want to make sure that you help them leverage their wins, let them have success. You got to be there to help them adjust so they don't go on the wrong path. Then move on if you've gotten there. If it's a skill thing and they've figured it out, move on. Move on. Find something else that's high impact that's going to help them get better at what matters to them. All right, urgency. So the last piece. So we talked about accountability, talked about execution. How do we get people doing things quickly? Especially the things that matter most. Urgency. Very simple. The more you follow through on something, the more you care about it, the more you talk about it, the more you look at it, it's going to dictate execution. All right? And it is absolutely proportional to how often you do it and how well you do it. So you can create these 3 very simple things. They're not easy, but they're simple, just by incorporating a few tactics. They're just not happening as fast or the way you want them. Break this out and think about what you're doing as far as how clear are you being? Am I really getting people to play it back for me so we're on the same page? Agreement to act, and what does my follow through look like? Am I doing it often enough to get things done? I think there might be. There's a little trite little saying that we use. Everybody is going 1,000 miles an hour out there. And so this little saying for us is stay on balance and follow through. At the end of the day, it's keep things simple. All right? It's the best advice I can give you, and if you can think about this, how this might work for you, where you can use it once, I'd be thrilled. If you have any questions about it, by all means, gosh, email me. I'd be happy to give you some thoughts or ideas, especially if it's sales related. It's what we deal with every day. But certainly any other spots I'd be happy to share with you. So hopefully I left you with some idea, some simple thing that you can take back to work with you this afternoon and tomorrow and beyond.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was
yeah,
great.
like I said, hopefully it was a value.
Appreciate you coming. Thank you, Amy and Scott, for hosting here today. You will get notice for the next event like this, and hopefully we'll see you all.